You know what they say, when it comes to comic books, nobody stays dead but Uncle Ben. My name is AJ with Top 10 Nerd, and these are the top 10 villains who die the most. At number 10 is Thanos. His very first exit happened in Avengers Annual number 7 when Adam Warlock, the cosmic hero, turned him into solid granite. That's one way to stop a villain in his tracks, right? But let's be real, if you think pulling a Han Solo in carbonite is gonna permanently stop the Mad Titan, you're obviously wrong. In a wild ride called Annihilation, Drax the Destroyer went all in and literally ripped Thanos' heart out. And just when he thought it was over, after Thanos' resurrection, Drax came back for seconds, this time finishing him off with an antimatter bomb. Another time, he found himself on the edge of insanity, floating around in nothingness outside of the universe, so what did he do? He decided to save himself from the boredom and went kaboom by blowing his own head off, which is a drastic measure to be sure, but it is Thanos we're talking about. And believe it or not, that's only like one of 3 times where Thanos has done himself in. Think that's all? Think again. Enter Dr. Doom, who got his hands on divinely godly powers, and so Thanos met his match when Doom yanked out his spine. Then Gamora, Thanos' own adopted daughter, beheaded him, and even though he reincarnated into the body of his brother Eros, this rendition got sucked into a black hole. I could go on forever, y'all. Wolverine, Marvel, Thor, Cersei, Zombie Hulk, Death itself, Thane, Deadpool, Lockjaw from the freaking Pet Avengers, even Squirrel Girl's on the list of people who have personally ended Thanos. But let's face it, Thanos seems to treat death more like a minor inconvenience. At number 9 is Multiman. So this dude was just your regular research assistant until he discovered this potion called Liquid Light, which he decided to drink, and after doing so, he couldn't die. Well, technically he still could, but each time he did, he came back with a fresh superpower. I mean, that's basically winning the jackpot in the superhero department, am I right? But for as awesome as that sounds, being resurrected and bestowed with a new power each time you kick the bucket is a gift that actually became torture for Multiman. How, you ask? Well, for starters, imagine getting knocked off 100 times in the span of like a week. See, the Joker had a field day with him in prison, taking him down 81 times until he developed the necessary powers to allow the Joker to take over the facility. Then the government stepped in and gave him the business about 37 more times until he got the right powers to undo all of the Joker's actions. And on top of that, dying so much messes with him big time. It's like hitting the reset button on your brain, leaving him disorientated and unintelligible. Despite all these insane abilities, nobody's taking this guy seriously. I mean, he's such an F-tier villain that his most recent rival was freaking Scooby-Doo. Yeah, not exactly the Justice League material we might have hoped for. If you're enjoying the video so far, please support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Top 10 Nerd, and ringing that notification bell. And number 8 is Doomsday. Alright, so picture this mad scientist, Betron, but like way back, like 750,000 years ago, all gung-ho about creating the ultimate life form. He whips up this creature, Doomsday, and instead of a cozy nursery, he sends the poor thing straight to the nastiest planet he could find. Not exactly a great start to life. Now, predictably, Doomsday bites the dust like pretty much immediately. But the scientist, not one to give up easily, takes a few cells from the deceased Doomsday and starts cloning. This dude repeats the process again and again like a messed up Groundhog Day experiment, where each time, Doomsday manages to stick around for just a little bit longer than before. First it's a measly few seconds, then minutes, and eventually the thing becomes practically unbreakable. Now, Doomsday's not your typical bad guy with a weak spot. No, he's got no brain, no heart, no standard organs, so he's basically a walking, indestructible killing machine. So there's no easy way to take this guy down. But what's even crazier is that even if you somehow manage to off him, he bounces back stronger and immune to whatever eliminated him the first time. They've tried some insane stuff like tearing him apart or bringing him to the literal edge of the universe, but he always comes back. I mean, even when the universe itself went kaput, this guy still found a way to respawn. At number 7 is the Joker. You would think that falling off a lighthouse or motorway would do the trick, right? But no, this guy has fallen from pretty much everywhere you can imagine and still manages to pop back up. Dude's got more lives than a cat, woman. Remember the time Nightwing went all out and put an end to the Joker? Yeah, after the Crown Prince of Crime supposedly offed Robin, but surprise, surprise, CPR brought him back from the brink. And Batman, well, even the Dark Knight couldn't permanently shut down the Joker. He had this showdown in Endgame where Batman did the unthinkable and took out the Joker, but lo and behold, the Clown Prince of Crime was back on his feet ready for more trouble. But his most famous demises aren't even in the main continuity. In alternate stories like Injustice, The Dark Knight Returns, Batman Beyond, and Arkham City, he's met his maker too. Yet, like a bad habit, the Joker always finds a way to stick around, haunting Batman's world world no matter what. The guy's resilience is honestly terrifying. At number 6 is Galactus. So Galactus, originally known as Galan, survived the end of his previous universe. When the current universe was born, he kind of soaked up all that cosmic energy and got reborn as the giant planet-eating dude we know and love. But he didn't realize this whole death and rebirth thing would become a trend for him. One of the first times Galactus met his maker was in Silver Surfer number 109, when the ultimate nullifier was used to, well, nullify Galactus out of existence, but that didn't last long since his herald, Silver Surfer, pulled an Uno reverse card and managed to use the nullifier to bring Galactus back. Then during the Infinity Gauntlet story, Thanos used the Infinity Stones to erase Galactus, but when Thanos got defeated, Galactus and everybody else who poofed in the dust made a comeback. Then in one story called The Death of Galactus in 2000, the Silver Surfer got tired of the whole heralding thing and put an end to Galactus by draining his life force. But guess what? Galactus' demise apparently woke up an even nastier being called Abraxas, who went around offing Galacti left, right, and center across different universes. So to deal with this new threat, Galactus had to be brought back. But it doesn't stop there. In a crossover event called JLA Avengers, Krona, this other big shot from DC, destroyed Galactus and turned his armor into a fortress. And just when he thought it couldn't get any crazier, there's this time, like 500 years into the future, when his body was turned into an engine to fuel an entire planet. But the modern day Galactus somehow caught wind of this future fate and took steps to dodge it. At number 5 is Razghoul. Cats ain't got nothing on the number of lives this guy's got. He's known for having this ace up his sleeve called the Lazarus Pit, a liquid that's like the fountain of youth on steroids. Not only does it keep you breathing for centuries, it can also heal up any wound, and if you kick the bucket, it brings you back like it's no biggie. Take that one time Batman thought he had him in Batman number 243, when Ra's looked gone for good. Even Batman saw the body and thought it was all over, but surprise, surprise, Ra's was back from the dead, thanks to a quick dip at the Lazarus Pit. You would think getting impaled, shot, hell, even crushed by a circus tent would finish a guy off, but not Ra's. Even when his daughter Nisa put an end to him and turned him into a pile of ashes which couldn't be brought back by the pit, Ra's still found a loophole to cheat death as his followers whipped up some mystical ritual, and boom, he was back in his son's body good as new. Not your regular villain, this guy's basically got a PhD in the art of the respawn. At number 4 is Red Skull. Red Skull, oh boy, where do we start? This guy's got a rap sheet longer than a CVS receipt. Like, just take this in. Captain America's been going toe to toe with Johann Schmidt, aka Red Skull, since World War II. Like, are you kidding? The dude's basically as old as Christ, and he's managed more resurrections. So how do you manage that? Well, first and foremost, he naturally bit the dust from old age, but then his brain got cozy in clones of himself, clones of other people, robot bodies, computers, you name it. In fact, the guy's backup plan included secret clones scattered worldwide. One of these clones woke up, snagged Professor X's brain, and even attained psychic powers, but this one got taken down by a messed up Hydra version of Cap that we don't talk about. More recently, a vampire named Selene hit the undo button and brought him back to life, but knowing Red Skull's track record, it's only a matter of time before the dude starts eyeing another ticket to the afterlife. At number 3 is Ben Reilly's Jackal. So this guy, Miles Warren, aka the original Jackal, got all tangled up in cloning experiments and cooking up this scheme to clone Spider-Man, making poor Ben Reilly believe he was the original Spidey and Peter Parker was the clone. But here's the thing, Miles didn't just stop at one clone. No, he got real carried away, repeatedly ending and cloning Ben Reilly over and over, like a whopping 23 times. Now at first, Ben was a hero, taking on the mantle of Scarlet Spider, fighting the good fight and all. But somewhere down the line he went off the rails, and I'm sure you would too if you had to die and respawn over 20 freaking times. And eventually, after taking up the Jackal mantle, he started going ham on his own clones, enslaving, torturing, and doing some pretty messed up stuff to his genetically identical versions of himself. Peter Parker, being the hero he is, had to step in and try to call out his former clone slash buddy on his crazy cloning spree. He tried to reason with Ben, telling him that playing with life and death like that wasn't cool, but things took a turn for the worse when Ben went all, "I'll resurrect everyone we couldn't save," and that just did not sit right with Spidey. And so all this came crashing down when Ben's sanity slipped through the cracks. He straight up attacked Spider-Man with his clone army, but even after all this, Ben got burned. After the beatdown, he finally saw the light and began his whole redemption journey. You know what they say, with great cloning abilities comes great potential for chaos. At number 2 is Claw. In the the MCU, he's this arms dealer guy with a prosthetic hand packing a sonic disruptor, but in the comics, his powers are off the charts crazy. This dude went through some sonic thingamajig and turned into pure sound, giving him the ability to mess with any sound wave out there. Now what's nuts is that Claw is pretty much unkillable. No matter how many times he's been taken down, he always manages to come back. Carol Danvers stuck him into his own disruptor, Carnage shredded him to bits, Black Panther dissipated him, Dazzler blew him to bits, he drowned in the Pacific Ocean, hell, he was even fed to Galactus's computer. But here's the twist, as long as there is a peep of sound, Claw is hanging around. You would think that a silent vacuum would be his kryptonite, but that just puts him on snooze mode apparently. Once he catches the slightest bit of sound, he's back in action. He might not be the most menacing villain out there, but he's definitely a pain to deal with each time he returns. And at number 1 is Solomon Grundy. This dude is undead to begin with, so it's really no surprise each time he comes back. In his origin story, he was revived by a mystical swamp after his body was dumped there by a gangster named Cyrus Gold. But Grundy isn't your average undead fella. He's got one weird cycle of dying and come back to life, all thanks to the mystical powers of that eerie swamp. So when he gets beaten to a pulp by superheroes, it's just a temporary setback. Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, they've all taken their swings at Grundy. At this point, it's basically a superhero rite of passage. I mean, this guy's faced everything from being flattened, torn apart by Red Tornado, hell, Batman once tried to cook him and drown him simultaneously. But no matter how many times they've sent him packing, Grundy keeps coming back for more. He's got this get out of death free card courtesy of that swamp, so heroes know it's just a matter of time before he's back on his feet, ready for another round, like a stubborn stain you can't quite wash out of your clothes. As always, if there's a villain who just won't kick the bucket that you think I missed here today, feel free to let me know down in the comments. This has been AJ with Top 10 Nerd, and I'll catch you all in another video. Later, nerds.